Good morning. Good morning. Can I ask you to take your seats? Good morning, everyone. All right. The room is abuzz. All right, let's take our seats. I'm going to start naming names. Okay. So I know you were all tempted to go across the hall to the Shakespeare event, but I'm glad that you decided to come over here. Then again, you could listen to me with my Boston accent do Shakespeare. That would be interesting, I think. Anyway, welcome to the Chamber's Government Affairs Forum featuring Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Joy Campbell. I'm Jim Rooney, President and CEO of the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce. I want to welcome you on this first day of a Boston spring, nice and foggy and misty out there. It's wonderful to welcome Attorney General Campbell to our Government Affairs Forum again. But before we get started with the main event and bring the Attorney General to the program, I do want to highlight that we're in a busy season at the Chamber, so I'd ask you to note a few upcoming events. On April 10th, we'll feature Speaker of the Massachusetts House of Representatives, Ron Mariano. On May 7th, Senate President Karen Spilka will join us. And on May 20th, be sure to join us for our annual meeting, which will bring together more than 1,500 business and civic leaders to celebrate the business community of Greater Boston and the region at our annual meeting. We're pleased to announce that we'll be inducting 3 influential leaders who are making a difference every day in our community into the Academy of Distinguished Bostonians. And they are Ann Klebanski, the CEO of Massachusetts Brigham, Dr. Michael Curry, Massachusetts League of Community Health Centers, and Jane Steinmetz from Ernst & Young. So a great lineup of honorees, and you can find out more about that event and all of the Chamber events at bostonchamber.com. We're almost ready to get going with the Attorney General, but I do want to recognize some of our sponsors. First, thank you to our friends at Comcast who help bring our government affairs programs to a wider audience. And I want to thank our longstanding sponsor of these government affairs forums, Bank of America, who have been partnering with us for more than 20 years on this program to bring the business community together with policymakers so we can have the kind of dialogue that we're going to have today. But today is this season is especially important to Bank of America. You all know that I think just in about 32 days, if my math is correct, the Boston Marathon will be run, a signature event for all of us here in Boston that we're very proud of, and we're very proud of the fact that Bank of America has stepped up as the sponsor of this event. Yes, please. Now today happens to be Boston Marathon Giving Day, and I know that Bank of America President Mihal Chamberlain and the team are out leading community activities throughout the city and the region today. There's 176 charities that are running or that have teams running in the Boston Marathon this year, raising funds. Last year, the total amount raised for charities by our Boston Marathon, which is so glorious in so many other ways, but we raised just under $72 million for those charities. A remarkable amount that I know that each of those institutions depend on each year. So today is Marathon Giving Day. So I'd ask you to take the time, if you have a family member, a friend, or a charity that's represented in the marathon, get out your phone, look it up, and and make the contribution today on Boston Marathon Giving Day, and congratulations again to my friends at Bank of America for stepping up in such a meaningful way. And with that, I'm pleased to turn the microphone over to Brian Grip, the Bank of America Senior Vice President for State Government Relations, to introduce our speaker today. Brian?
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And special thanks, Jim, for mentioning the Boston Marathon Giving Day. I want to give a shout out to my Bank of America colleagues who are here with me this morning, especially Stephanie Wazorek, who is part of the team that works very hard on pulling all the details together on the sponsorship for Bank of America and the marathon. So thank you, especially for Giving Day today, Stephanie. So thank you. So I'm excited to be here for our second Government Affairs Forum of the year. It's been 20 years that Bank of America has been a proud partner with the Chamber. With 20 years, and hard to believe, I think I've been here for just about all of them. Jim can probably keep me honest on that. But the Government Affairs Forum has really been a wonderful opportunity to convene policymakers, business leaders, community leaders, and to hear from state and city officials. So on behalf of Bank of America and our employees, my colleagues, I'm honored to introduce today's featured speaker, Attorney General Andrea Joy Campbell. As the Commonwealth's 45th Attorney General, she is committed to building economic prosperity and stability for all residents. Attorney General Campbell advocates for the people of Massachusetts, including protecting consumers, combating fraud, investigating and prosecuting crime, and protecting the environment, workers, and civil rights. Previously, Attorney General Campbell successfully ran for the Boston City Council, and she was the first woman to represent District 4 in the role. In 2018, she was unanimously elected President of the City Council, the first Black woman to hold the title. In addition, she previously served as legal counsel to Governor Deval Patrick and general counsel at the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. Attorney General Campbell, we are grateful to have you with us today. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Attorney General Campbell.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Brian, for the kind words and introduction. Thank you, Jim, as well. Thank you all for being here. Stability. Yeah. Who knew that would be so important? We're working on that. I always get the round of applause, and I actually want to sort of put it back on all of you to give a couple of folks a round of applause. One, Jim's team that coordinated all of this. Many of them, of course, in the hallways walked us in. So I want to give a round of applause to you and your team for working with my team to make this happen. So thank you. I also, and they probably can't hear us, but the folks who are serving our coffee and breakfast, you name it, many of whom are probably immigrants, who are showing up at least in this day and age with tremendous courage to come to work, to do their jobs on behalf of all of us. And so I don't know about you, but everywhere I'm going, I am thanking an immigrant or two or a whole community. So I want to thank the folks who are serving our coffee and our breakfast as well. And of course, thank you all for being here. There are so many familiar faces and friends and colleagues in this space, so I'm grateful to be here with you this morning. And eventually, we'll answer some of the questions that you might have. But I'm going to take a little bit longer than I normally do because clearly there's a lot to say. But I'm mindful of time, so I won't be up here for 20 or 30 minutes. But do want to at least lift up some of the work that we're doing. Some you may know about, some you may not know about. So this actually marks the third year. So I've just started my third year as Attorney General of this incredible state. And of course, I never take that for granted. It is an honor and privilege to be your Attorney General. And I actually think the stakes for state government in particular have never been higher in this moment in time. At no other time, at least in my young and fabulous life, has it been more important for state government to not only step up, but to really deliver for our residents and to do everything we can to protect our economic interests here in the Commonwealth. Massachusetts residents, of course, all of you are Massachusetts residents, or at least most of you. You, your families, your employees expect a state where they can afford to live, where residents can afford housing, energy, childcare, health care, and where none of these costs actually break or bust a family budget. They expect a government that advances public health, ensures public safety, and protects our environment, especially for our children and our elders. And they, of course, expect an economy that will treat them fairly, one where our workers will be paid on time, where they will be paid the benefits they earned, where consumers will be protected, where employees, of course, will be shielded from discrimination and other types of hardship. And I know our business community expects the same. These are the very issues that you care about, not just because you're residents here in Massachusetts, but because you have employees and families also within the Commonwealth. And as businesses are trying, and I would say working exceptionally hard in this moment in time to do the right thing, you also deserve a fair market where those who follow the law, or I should say where those, including businesses who may try to not follow the law, are expected to follow the law of Massachusetts and, of course, this federal government, where the rules are applicable to everyone, and any business or anyone who seeks to violate our laws are held accountable. All of us expect this, and so we're going to work in partnership, as we already have, my office with yours, to do just that. It's also an unfortunate reality that while we work to serve the public at the state level, the federal government is failing to do the same at the federal level. Our current president has pledged to strengthen our economy, to actually lower the cost of living for folks all across this country. He has not delivered on those promises as of yet, and I don't anticipate or expect that he will. Instead, what we've seen in a short period of time, and it feels like 4 years, but I don't even think it's been 100 days, we've seen actions that, if left unchecked, will tank our economy, absolutely bring about a recession, and worsen economic hardship for residents and businesses here in Massachusetts and across this country. And make no mistake, the administration's second term is very different than the first. Their approach to governance has shifted dramatically. Their policy priorities have changed, and their violations of the law have escalated both in volume and in speed. The need for litigation is greater than ever, and the stakes are higher. The very foundation of our state's economy is at risk. And let's not mince our words this morning, maybe even for the rest of the day, wherever you go. The president is taking action at the very hearts and the foundations of our economic system here in Massachusetts, including, for example, going after biomedical research and higher education, two of the driving forces of our economy here in Massachusetts. And vulnerable populations, of course, are being targeted in some of the most disruptive and disgraceful ways we've seen. And at the same time, we are navigating federal courts, especially the Supreme Court, that has become increasingly complex. But I am here this morning to assure you that the Attorney General's office, my office, is absolutely ready to respond and to do it in partnership with each and every one of you. Your Attorney General's office has been working even before the election to meet this moment. We're always doing contingency planning like you, because you just never know what's going to happen, so we have to be prepared. And Massachusetts has been at the forefront of all of that work. We expected one of the threats that would come from the federal government is that they would step away from the very things that we would need them to do, including protecting consumers, preventing fraud, especially in our healthcare systems and healthcare delivery services, and ensuring a fair economy and a safe and clean environment. That just means, of course, we're going to have to work more at the state level, including with our legislative partners, to address all of these things, and we're doing just that. We knew, too, that we would have to work with AGs across the country. And let me tell you, I'm on the calls, I feel like every single day with AGs from across the country. And no, we're not as big as New York or California, but we punch above our weight every day. I feel like I'm Muhammad Ali on most of these calls. And it is fantastic. And why is it fantastic? Because again, it demonstrates Massachusetts leadership. We're not California and New York, but in every single, not just some, every single decision that involves litigation or anything involving lawyering or using our tools as AGs, we are in every single conversation. And I would say actually in most of them, we are leading the way. We're not just bringing surface level crap. We're bringing substance. We're drafting the complaints. We are doing the writing. We're doing the legal research. We're doing a lot of it. Massachusetts is truly leading. And we're not just a leader when it comes, of course, to our litigation efforts or what we're doing in the AG's office. We're also a leader, of course, as I mentioned, in biomedical research. Our world-renowned healthcare institutions and research institutions and hospitals and biotech firms and pharmaceutical companies and so many others attract the top talent from around the world. These are some of the smartest minds on the planet working right here in Massachusetts, excited about what they can do to shape and, of course, transform our public health system here. Nearly $3.5 billion of that research is funded by federal grants from the National Institutes of Health, NIH. This research has helped develop all types of breakthroughs with all types of diseases and, of course, treatments as well for adult and pediatric cancer, ALS, Parkinson's disease, heart disease, PTSD, and so much more. We are the hub of this life-extending and life-saving work. And our economy depends on us continuing not only to do the work, but also to get the funding from the federal government to help us get it done. And the president's recent attempt to slash this funding put everything and people's lives at risk, including our children. If I could stand here, I could probably go on for hours about the stories we've heard, including for folks who voted for the president. We talked to everybody. The stories we've heard about people's clinical trials being canceled for their children who have pediatric cancer are heartbreaking. And so what did we do? We didn't sit in our office and just say, oh, this is just so terrible. No, we got this news on a Friday night. And I have date night with my husband on Friday. I had to cancel that. And what we did, we worked, including over the weekend, because that's just what the office does, like all of you, almost 24/7. And we were in court Monday morning, filing a brief. In that same afternoon, we secured initial relief, and of course, we've worked to make that relief permanent. In this relief, in the NIH case that we led on, covering over 20 AGs from across the country, that relief wasn't just for blue states. It was for blue states and red states and for every person, regardless of what political letter is by their name, which I think is another example of how this AG's office, but most importantly, this state leads. We do it not regardless of your party affiliation or your demographic. And we'll continue to fight for folks. We did the same thing when we had this OMB memo, which of course has now become famous. Nearly $22 billion in federal funding that would be cut from Massachusetts. We ran into court with my colleagues across the country to protect that money, which supports jobs, infrastructure, you name it. Many businesses, of course, in this room rely directly on that to be able to sustain their very business. And we won that case too, working in partnership with some folks in this room. And then I can't, of course, not mention that the richest man in the world who's currently in DC, unelected, pretending to know something about government efficiency. Well, I believe in government efficiency. When I was on the city council, I would often say my frustration with government was the amount of time and money government waste, not actually helping people, not solving problems. I ran for office actually to push against that. And in the AG's office, we are mindful of that and always thinking about ways in which to cut bureaucracy and red tape to ensure that we're getting things done. Government efficiency is not about cutting services to the most vulnerable, or slashing jobs, or dismantling departments that we need to be effective and responsive to the very needs of the constituents we all serve collectively. And it's not effective if it's done erratically and without a plan or strategic plan attached. And like many in this room, I had to rely on teachers and educators to be able to become the first Black woman AG in the Commonwealth. Coming from some of the poorest circumstances in Boston, I'm the first in my family to go to college, beautiful Princeton, the first in my family to go to law school. That's because educators didn't just teach me math and reading and the basics. They did so much more to instill in me a value system, but also this idea that I could do and be anyone and anything I wanted, which is what I want my two boys in the Dartmouth Public Schools also to have access to. And you have an administration that is willingly looking to dismantle an entire Department of Education. That will absolutely have a direct impact on our educators, their salaries, the school districts in which they operate. That will then, of course, have an impact on our workforce, on our employees, on your ability to attract more talent, and most importantly, to attract homegrown talent right here in Massachusetts. So again, we didn't sit in the office and just complain and go, woe is us, this is horrible. We went into court leading the way again on protecting grants that would expand a pipeline for the teacher shortage right here in Massachusetts, and of course, to push back against an administration that is looking to dismantle the entire Department of Education. This is significant work that you too, I hope, will also care about as we continue to navigate the courts on this issue too, which apparently will be in the news again later today. And I could go on and on about the ways in which we're pushing back. And we're being strategic. We're not fighting everything, and we don't want to. We actually want to work with an administration to deliver on the very things we say we care about here in Massachusetts. But we are mostly focused on where the funding will be cut from the federal administration coming to the Commonwealth to allow us to serve our residents in partnership with you and to keep us competitive in this country, and of course to make sure that Massachusetts remains a leader. But like I also have told my team, and I'm almost done, I refuse to let one man, one little old man, I'm very God-fearing too, so the fear of God is more important to me than the fear of some human being, just saying. And I also pray every day, and I pray for the administration, I pray for my team, I pray for the Commonwealth, I pray every morning. I'm up really early. It used to be 5:30, now it's like 4:45 or 5 a.m. prayer, and then trying to squeeze in a workout, but prayer is really doing this. But the proactive work that we have also done in partnership with this incredible organization, I don't want to discount that. It is significant and it is important. On housing, which continues to be the #1 issue under the issue of affordability in Massachusetts, this chamber, this group of individuals, Jim, thank you, have stepped up to support us in our fight to enforce the MBTA Communities Law, which is really important and continues to be. And we'll continue to fight to enforce this law and to bring communities into compliance, even with the misleading information that is out there about it being an unfunded mandate. We will continue to push for folks to come in compliance. And I will say it's really disappointing that folks are relying on that misleading information to try to remain out of compliance, because it's costing taxpayer dollars to now have us enforce the law, and also to, of course, defend these lawsuits that are now being filed by more towns, instead of using that taxpayer dollars to be able to build more housing and to bring housing more online quicker for the folks who need it the most. But we'll keep fighting. We'll keep working with you on consumer protection and so much more. And then lastly, I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. Yes, litigation is a significant tool that we have, but we also have the ability to put out guidance and advisories. And many of you have been helpful in us formulating and crafting these advisories or guidance. We have a website page. It's a one-stop shop for anyone who is dealing with any immigration issue on what the law actually is, what working with the administration actually looks like while protecting the very folks who come to your jobs every day and who may identify as an immigrant, or who may be coming to work even while they're under fear. We have updated it for school districts, for healthcare institutions, for school superintendents, for early ed providers and other organizations like them, and for businesses and so many others, and we invite you to spread the word on that. The last is guidance having to do with DEIA policies. And I want to thank some of you already in the room for extending gratitude to me. It's really a team effort for that guidance, which we will hope helps you to be able to continue to implement your DEI policies within your respective organizations and companies. And why we care so deeply about this is we know that there's an administration looking to bully organizations, including those in the private sector, to eliminate what we know to be lawful DEI policies, and also to make it seem as though these policies are only helping black folk. And I can say it standing in this skin. Total nonsense. DEI policies help those with disabilities. They help women. They help all types of folks to ensure the very tables we sit at are the most diverse, to ensure that the organizations in which we run and operate have a whole range of perspective at the tables as you're crafting solutions to very difficult and challenging problems. And if anything, some black folks are saying those policies are not doing enough to help black folks. So we clearly still have work to do. But this connection and narrative to suggest that somehow these policies are favoring black people over others is total nonsense. Also suggesting they're unlawful is also total nonsense. These policies are lawful and they work. We know in the AG's office, and you know in your respective organizations, and your general counsels know, and your lawyers know, set-asides and quotas, those are unlawful. But these are not the same thing. And they would have you think or try to make you believe that DEIA policies and these other quotas and set-asides are the same. They are not. And we don't need another report to talk about the value of these types of policies and initiatives if well-resourced with the right human capital and enough human capital to really get the job done across your organization, they work. They create places of employment where discrimination claims actually go down. They also allow for a greater consumer experience. They allow for a work culture within your office to be better. They also increase the bottom line. The McKinsey reports, there's so many reports. I could be up here for another hour naming them all in terms of the companies that have really robust DEIA policies. Your numbers and your money go up. And so I say all of this, and this is where I now wrap up, to say you have an attorney general that is like, bring it on. And you have an office of dedicated staff and talent making very little money. Most of my team could probably go to many of your companies and make 4 times what they make in my office, because we just can't pay them, I think, the wages they deserve. But they're here because they're passionate about service. They're passionate about the Commonwealth being a leader now and in the future. They're passionate about helping those we deem to be the most vulnerable. They're passionate about leaving a legacy behind of service that actually will make a difference in the Commonwealth, in this country. They're passionate about serving each and every one of you and doing it in partnership. I have a team that is dedicated and will absolutely step up every step of the way to protect our residents and to protect our economic interest. But we cannot do it by ourselves. We need each of you to be a partner in this work. The DEIA guidance we've put out, we hope is actually helpful, but most importantly, we see that as the easy stuff for organizations to go back to their boardrooms, their executive leadership rooms in partnership with us, and I'm grateful for the Chamber's support of that guidance, and to say, what are we doing when it comes to all things DEIA? What are we doing in action to push back on a federal government that is looking to dismantle our Constitution and the very principles of democracy, of the rule of law that we probably take for granted. Our fight back on DEI is one example of saying we're not going to accept what's coming from the administration. Maybe we won't agree on every single policy, but the rule of law isn't just important to an AG's office, it's important to the business community. You don't have a system where we value the rule of law and what it means in creating a fair economy and a market and some stability. We're all in trouble. We suddenly don't look like the United States of America and, of course, Massachusetts, which is the greatest state in the country. We look like something else. And the question I often get is, are we in a constitutional crisis? It's not an on and off button. It's a dial. And we're heading in a dangerous direction. So the question is, how are we all going to step up as individuals, as parents, as organizational leaders in this moment in time to be courageous, to do it in partnership. We're here to support you every step of the way, and to do it with a sense of joy and pride, and most importantly, to leave behind a legacy that our children and the children after them would be proud of. That's what we're doing, and we're so delighted, and I say we, my team is here throughout the audience. We're delighted to be here with you, to do it in partnership with you, to recognize your challenges and the challenges ahead, and to say you're not alone. This lawyer, this office has your back as you look to be courageous and take steps that may put a target on your back, but bring it on.
Wow.
You said you're not going anywhere, so I was just putting my binder down.
That
Thank you.
certainly was some energy and passion, and maybe I'll begin there. You mentioned your team and the public service. No one's going to get rich in public service, and the passion
No, they're not.
that your team has.
Our budgets are public, you can see, they're not.
But I want to turn that back on you, and you've dedicated your life to public service in Boston, and we're grateful to that. So why? What motivates this passion that you have for public service and all that you've done and all that you talked about?
Thank you, Jim, for the question. I think it's, and I'd like to think I got here on my own. I did not. I often talk about the loss of my twin brother, so it's Andre and Andrea, and how just different our lives turned out. We were both born and raised in the city of Boston. We were both Boston Public Schools school kids. And I go off from Latin school to Princeton to UCLA Law School, and by every metric, my life has been successful. He dies while in the custody of the Department of Correction at 29 years old as a pre-trial detainee while waiting to go to trial. All of my biological parents and all of my biological grandparents are deceased, and some of that under some horrific circumstances. And so I think about my brother Andre, and during that moment in time when we were navigating this, and my family and I had to ask deep questions. I think sometimes it's hardship that then pushes us to look ourselves in the mirror and say, why are we here? What is our purpose, and what are we meant to do with our lives? And so I went back to my faith and just started asking that question. What is my God-given purpose? And so being in public service, running for city council to start, and of course holding this incredible role now, I see us connected to a purpose that's bigger than me. It's not about me. It is about other people. It is about service. And so every day I wake up with a very authentic joy and excitement to go into work and to serve others, because for me it's attached to something that is bigger than me. When I left the private sector, and I was there at one point at a law firm, Proskauer, some former colleague, every 6 minutes was money, so I get, we got to wrap this up real soon. I get the private sector, money, I get it. You got to keep things on track. I get that perspective too, and I don't want to discount it because you can find purpose there as well. But I think it's just a matter of figuring out what it is. And when I left the private sector behind, it was this. But it won't mean anything if you're sitting in a position even if I feel it's purpose-driven, and you do nothing with it. So now I feel like this is the time to make sure we maximize what we can do with what I think is a God-given opportunity that I've been afforded, and a blessing to really do amazing work every single day on behalf of as many people as we can.
Well, you found your purpose, and we're grateful for
Thank
it.
you, Jim.
So thank you. Couple issues. You mentioned housing, and you know, it is a very important issue to the business community, trying to attract and retain talent. You successfully defended the law, the MBTA Communities Act, at the state Supreme Court, and now it's implementation time. You mentioned continuing to fight that. There's a number of other policies that are in play now, based on last year's legislation related to accessory dwelling units and other types of things. We know that we invented town meeting and local control. And, you know, some of this is grounded in that.
Yes.
Are you seeing some of the same types of reactions to these attempts to grow our housing inventory?
I would actually say, and this is where I think some of the coverage gets it wrong, the majority of communities are either in compliance with the MBTA communities law or actively working to come into compliance. Over 100 communities. And I don't think they get celebrated enough. These are folks who, their full-time job isn't town meeting, right? It's something else, and they do this in addition, who are working really hard to educate folks on what it all means and to work quickly to be able to get stakes in the ground to start building housing. And we're proud to provide technical assistance to many of these municipalities through our municipal law unit. Every single day, we're reviewing bylaws, we're working with municipalities, or through our new unit, which is our housing affordability unit, which I and my team created, given how important housing is. We needed a group of lawyers and team members focused on all things housing, and we have that now. Accessory dwelling units, I was just in Worcester with our team there. We have an office in Worcester, Springfield, New Bedford, and Boston. And talking with our folks in our municipal law unit who are working with municipalities on accessory dwelling units, that is going well. A lot of technical assistance we have to provide, but will make a difference in the housing conversation, especially for elders, as ADUs are typically used for elders or to move your parents or in-laws right behind you. Give them quality housing when you do that. But it's important. And so so far that has gone well. I think what is unfortunate is right now this unfunded mandate suggestion that is just wrong and now invites other municipalities to begin to sue the state, which we have seen, and we're trying to get ahead of that with very flawed legal arguments that will then slow down our response to housing, which is not what we need, and of course not what any of you need. We need folks to be able to afford to live here, college students to stay, or even folks that you're attracting from other states who want to come to Massachusetts to also be able to afford housing and to have access to this housing. So we're working as hard as we can, and we're prioritizing this issue along with all things related to affordability.
Another issue on the minds of the business community is the cost of energy. I know that one of your office's responsibility is being a ratepayer advocate for the Commonwealth, who advocates on behalf of consumers for electricity, gas, and water. Can you just remind us of what that involves and what some of your thoughts are on the current issue of energy prices?
It's a great question. It's a timely question, given that utility bills and utility costs are also under this affordability issue, the number one issue that people are talking about of late. Maybe less so now that temperatures have gotten warmer, but every elected official was inundated in the past couple of months with the bills that folks were receiving, 30% increases. We had folks saying, not only can I not afford it, I don't know what I'm going to do. So we inserted ourselves, I would say, a little bit more aggressively than we have in the past, given the number of complaints coming to the office about people's bills. We reminded folks, yes, we're the ratepayer advocate, which means that we go before the Department of Public Utilities, DPU, and various posture and form to ensure that the proposals coming from companies, and we get companies may have to increase their costs for infrastructure costs, other things, to run the companies, to deliver utility services to constituents, but to make sure those increases are fair and reasonable for the ratepayer. And so we had to remind and educate folks what that process looks like. It can be very complex, but that's what we do. We advocate to the DPU. In the context of most recently utilities, we said, you have to extend this moratorium. No one should have the utilities shut off if they can't afford it. And that was welcomed by all. I know there might be some utilities in the room. We also said they want to delay some of the costs to the, I'm just looking around. They want to delay some of the costs to the spring or the summer. They're like, okay, but they also wanted to charge interest. We said, no, work with us. You can't do that. Please don't do that. Give us some of your money. So they didn't. And that was a victory, working in collaboration and partnership with businesses to push for no interest to be charged. And actually, because some utilities stepped up, others that were holding back also did the same. And then we're reminding folks the implications of what's happening at the federal level. The tariff conversation is happening, it's not happening. Picking fights with Canada, we don't understand why. All of these, and pulling back on contracts, particularly in the federal funding piece, IRA funding, infrastructure projects, all of this, the things that would support the grid, other things can increase utility costs. And so we're at every single table advocating for that not to happen, to ensure that it doesn't have an effect here. And then my last point is, I just met with the team yesterday on maybe some long-term solutions or midterm solutions where legislative fixes are needed, where money is being given, including to our utilities, but asking as we transition to clean energy, what role do we all play? How much should the ratepayer pay? How much do utilities pay? How much should the federal government step up? How much should the state step up? I think we have to be a little bit more specific and less sort of pie in the sky about what the numbers and things actually look like. How much will it cost the ratepayer if we are to shift by a certain date with a sense of urgency on some of our climate goals? No one's done that analysis with any level of detail. It will be in the billions for sure, but how much? And what should we be putting on the ratepayer, and then what should other stakeholders have to do as we all want to transition to clean energy while also doing it sustainably and responsibly? It's a transition, but we also, I think, have to be more thoughtful.
Yeah, that would be an interesting analysis, because I think you're right that there's a lot of proposals, and we all support working towards a clean environment and so forth, but this cost issue and how it's paid for has been an unanswered question for a long time.
And I will say, even when talking to the team and others, it's people, we shy away politically. I don't know if you want to do that. Political consideration is at the bottom of my list. Maybe that's the problem, but anyway, in terms of calculating what we're going to do and not going to do, how can you truly solve that issue long-term, reach 2030 goals or 2050 goals, if we don't have the most robust information and all of us operating from the same premise to then be able to have a thoughtful conversation on who should bear what? And right now, of course, the sentiment by ratepayers is they're bearing too much of this, especially the poor residents in poorer communities, and they just can't. So how do we make sure we're, of course, tackling our climate goals and doing it with all of our environmental advocates and businesses, and at the same time, doing it in a way that's affordable and sustainable for the poorest in our state? We have work to do there. And we want to be a part of the solution.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the federal threats to our healthcare and life science systems, but your office plays a role in our healthcare system, and we had issues even before the election in our healthcare system. Your office evaluates healthcare cost trends, oversees hospital mergers and acquisitions on behalf of consumers. So what are your thoughts on the state of our healthcare systems, and how does your office participate in these areas?
I'm concerned. I was concerned even before this administration, and not just because of Steward, which of course we all watched unravel, and continues, of course, to be a top priority in our office. One, on this accountability piece, who should be held accountable, what that looks like. That's an open matter, and it will remain open, and we will stay on top of that. And when I can share more about what that looks like, we will report back. But the second, of course, was working with our legislative partners, the governor, Kate at HHS, and so many others on transitioning care. One constructive feedback I often would say during these conversations is you have to over-communicate to the public. And at times, I didn't think that went exceptionally well. Even if it's a decision the public won't like your institution in your neighborhood may be closed. If you communicate that at the outset, that that's a possibility, versus towards the end, when it's crunch time, and then it's, oh, by the way, we're going to close your facility, it just makes it more difficult to have to engage with stakeholders. And I just think there's a way to do a better job. So we're continuing to focus on Stewart. But I'm concerned about workforce shortages. The folks waiting in beds in hallways because there's not enough nurses and doctors. That is real in so many different communities. The shortage of PCPs. Move to certain parts of the state. Good luck trying to get a new PCP. And we know how critical that role is, and then getting access to behavioral health services, even maybe finding a qualified dentist or a specialist, especially for our kids. So this workforce shortage, I know is a concern for so many. And some of our federal grants and others go to support some of that. So we're actively focused on that. Cost. The recent CHEER report that came out. We're still getting data from the federal, from the federal administration, and everyone should be alarmed. Cost containment and recent conversations with the legislature on the 2012 legislation, is that enough? I think everyone agrees, no, we have to go back to the drawing board on that. And so we want to be a partner in that. Community-based health centers, some of our smaller institutions that bear brunt of a lot of access and making themselves accessible in terms of delivery of health care. What does it mean to support them? So I could go on. I have a new healthcare bureau leader. Many of you know Toby, who ran our Medicaid fraud unit. She's been in the office for some time. She's amazing. And why she is in that role is to actually get us from just thinking about the small issues, but big picture. What are the major healthcare issues in the Commonwealth? And we will be working with all of you. And how do we as a collective tackle it and not just make it about a steward? I actually see this as an opportunity to do that, whether it's about workforce shortages, affordability, costs, access. And then I can't sit here without mentioning Black maternal health. We have made that a priority. We've even funded organizations for the first time out of the AG's office, organizations that have a track record of closing Black maternal health gaps as far as Berkshire County. And we think that's going exceptionally well. So we have a hyper focus on some of that, which is equally important, including with poorer mothers who are not Black in certain parts of the state that also have really disturbing outcomes when it comes to maternal health right here in Massachusetts. We're also focused on that too.
Earlier this month, you announced final regulations on junk fees.
Yes.
What am I reading?
Okay.
You want it? You want it? So junk fees. Maybe for those that may have, not heard the announcement, you can talk a little bit about the what and the why of the junk fee regulations, and just talk a little bit about the decision to take a broad-based approach, given that there's major differences in pricing from industry to industry, but the approach is broad-based. And so as the regulations are implemented, do you expect that there'd have to be some dialogue, some feedback from different industries about how things are being implemented? Absolutely.
So junk fees, hidden fees, I think even if you sort of maybe take your business hat off and fees are part of your revenue source, everyone's annoyed by junk fees. You go to buy your Beyonce ticket, and I'm buying Beyonce tickets, and it's $99, and by the end of the transaction, it's $156, right? We hear complaints in the office. It's one of the biggest things we've heard about, including obviously under the previous administration. They were focused on junk fees because of the complaints they got through various agencies as well. And as we talk about affordability, we always looking at how can we help the consumer with the very thing they're bringing us. So this one for us was a no-brainer. When we put out the proposed regulations maybe a year ago, we got hundreds of comments, and we actually we took every meeting, by the way, for businesses, every sector. No one was denied a meeting. And so we took all of that thoughtfulness and feedback that we got, incorporated it into the regulations we just put out, changing all types of definitions, given people have different types of ways in which they describe their fees or don't define their fees, total price. So we made a lot of changes that I think many of you welcomed and said thank you. Then there were many industries that wanted to be exempt. Some we did exempt, and many we did not, but we then added language to say if you comply with another regulation, for example, in the state, you're in compliance then with our junk fees, recognizing that some industries have to comply with other regulations, and so they're like, why do we have to do this? We already have to come in compliance with this regulation over here. So I think we're very thoughtful. That being said, I already know there's a couple of folks in the room who want to have ongoing conversations about that. Happy to. We didn't implement or do an implementation date of 30 days. We actually did 6 months. And we did the 6 months to help businesses have adequate time, not only to get information out, to update systems, including technological systems and platforms, to respond. And why is this important? For our consumers, it's about transparency. If they go to buy a product, they should know how much it's going to cost. It also is in the context of subscriptions. It's easy to sign up for a subscription and get a trial offer. Then you're trying to cancel it, and it's like, oh, wait, where, what, how do I do this? And we said, no, you should be able to cancel it the same way that you signed up and make it easier for a consumer to do that. They should also know what the fees mean. Some businesses have done this exceptionally well. Every fee you see, there's a description, you read it, and then you decide, okay, I want to incur that, and you move on. Many businesses don't always, I say many, some businesses don't actually describe it. Convenience fee, okay, well, what does that mean? What does it actually mean? So just pushing businesses to be, like some others, more transparent in what a fee means, but also, is it waivable? Is it mandatory? Is it optional? Consumer having understanding of that, and then they can decide to move forward with the transaction. And so we always have this balance to strike of working with our businesses, protecting the interests of our business, but also protecting the interests of our consumers, which is equally important. And so we're doing that in partnership with all of you. We are continuing to have conversations with folks in the room who have concerns or thoughts and further feedback. Some of you may not like it, and I apologize in advance if we still included your industry. But we still will work with you even after implementation, which is what we always do. And we're not coming out the gate suddenly being looking to with an enforcement posture. Everything has to be. We want to be thoughtful, and just like I tell other parts of my office, it's not bringing a hammer to every situation. It's being thoughtful. It's being understanding of facts, context, et cetera, and we'll do the same in the context of junk fees. But I will tell you from a consumer perspective, which all of you are, people have been delighted and really happy to see the regulations on all things junk fees and hidden fees in the context of pricing, so you know the total price, but also in the context of subscriptions and these trial offers that could suddenly be thousands of dollars and you thought you signed up for a trial offer that would last 30 days.
All right, I'm going to squeeze in one more question. We were grateful, and I know many of our members were, that you published some legal guidance related to the DE&I initiatives. We appreciate that. And one of my big takeaways is that executive orders don't change the law, that the laws still exist. That being said, what is going on right now is Washington using a lot of its leverage with federal contractors, colleges, hospitals, anyone that receives federal money. What can you say to businesses or anyone in that position where that relationship is important and now they're being sort of told through regulatory process or otherwise, you must comply with this new language or not have that language?
So we put out the guidance to, at least at a start, equip our businesses and institutions of all types to feel not only, to understand, I should say, not only what the law is and to be crystal clear, but to also say you have an ally in the AG's office in supporting and working with you on anything that may sort of come your way. Because there was confusion. Is it lawful? Can a president take an executive order and a Sharpie and immediately wipe out these laws? No, you cannot. And we've seen an effort to try to do that in the context of the Department of Education and other actions where you can't take, or even birthright citizenship, which we are also at the forefront of. And so wanting to put out there what the current legal landscape is for DEI policies, that they're lawful, what they mean, what they do. And if you haven't seen the guidance, we encourage you, of course, to read it and to share it with your teams. They are using fear and threats and retribution. This is their strategy to get us to change our behavior, to change how we run our organizations, and to dismantle lawful policies. And so in this moment in time, yes, I could put this in the guidance, but what good is it, right? We only are sticking with the law and the guidance. We have to exercise our backbones. Someone said it's like a spine of steel. Okay, find your spine of steel. Find your courage in this moment, because that's also what it takes. And I think for us, we're using DEI, and there are many examples you can point to. Maybe find the one that means the most to you. Many, it is the NIH funding, where they are using fear and threats to dismantle or attempts to eradicate critical funding coming to Massachusetts for legitimate and well thought out and reasoned purposes that we know, of course, help businesses and profit margins and so many other things, to dismantle these things unlawfully. And if we allow a president or an administration to continue to just chip away, and to turn that dial more and more, where suddenly laws mean nothing, Constitution means absolutely nothing, there's no checks and balances systems, judges mean nothing, and mind you, judges can't do anything unless lawyers show up to court. Lawyering means nothing. Then we're in a different ballgame. It won't even be about DEI anymore. We'll be talking about what is the state of affairs in this country, what is the value and the pillars of this country. It's no longer a democracy anymore. It's no longer the very things that we say we take for granted, a constitutional society. That will be gone, because I do think the goal is to put more power in the executive branch. Some have called the president a king, or he's operating as a king, moving more power to that branch, trying to dismantle or do away with Congress. And mind you, all of these agencies created by Congress cannot be legally eliminated by a president, even though he's attempting to do that. Do away with Congress, demonize judges, which is also a part of a strategy to undermine the credibility of our judges in this country to the average person. Oh, judges, they're just all lying. All of these checks and balances go away, and we suddenly enter a constitutional crisis. Forget a recession. I find that to be far worse. And so for me, these are just chipping away. One unlawful action leading to another, leading to another, leading to another. So the question becomes, how much will you be willing to accept before it's too late? We said we weren't willing to accept it at birthright. 150 years, a stroke of a pen attempting to wipe out birthright citizenship and the 14th Amendment. We said no. We weren't willing to accept it with the OMB memo. A memo looking to eliminate all federal funding coming to Massachusetts. We said we weren't willing to accept it. DEI dismantling, attacks on our LGBTQ community and our trans youth, kids. We're not willing to accept it. So every step of the way, we're saying we're not willing to accept any of it because we know where it's heading. We need more people. In this community in particular, you have a powerful voice through the organizations you represent and the constituents you reach to say we're not willing to accept it, to be a part of or the enabling of the turning of the dial to the place where we get to a point of no return, and then it's more difficult to go backwards. And I'm not an alarmist, I'm an optimist. My middle name is Joy. I believe in living that out every day. That's why I'm up praying for us all, hoping that more prayer will thwart that's a part of my prayer, thwart this illegal, unlawful action that is coming from the administration, and that more people will not be willing to stand on the sideline, be a bystander, watching it happen and saying, oh, I wish I shoulda, woulda, coulda, when it's too late. And Massachusetts in particular has an opportunity to lead every single AG office. And mind you, none of the Republican AGs, I'm getting a little political here, none of them attached to any of our cases. I talked to them about other things that we are partnering on, and I'm like, I'd like to talk to you about silence. But like I said, the relief we're getting is going to red states too. Everyone is looking to Massachusetts. This is our moment in time to deliver, and to deliver in a way that shocks the nation because of the level of courage coming from every stakeholder in this state. I want to be a part of that. And we're doing our part. If you need more from us on what that looks like, fine. If they're going to come after us, okay. Some people had to go to jail for me to sit up here and even be your AG. For me to marry the person I wanted to marry. For me to sit in this room with all of us at these tables. For me to sit at this table as diverse as it is. I refuse in this moment in time to forget that historical context and the allyship that existed in various moments across religion, demographic, to be able to deliver the very thing we probably take for granted, that we can sit in this room together, have breakfast, and no one be thrown in jail or killed as a result. Thank you.
I think you're right.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know that I need to say anything else. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Hell yeah. Are you gonna be my mommy and daddy?
We sure would love that if you'll have us.